Imagine your entire existence, your hopes, your dreams, your daily comforts, reduced to a single unyielding number. Everything beyond basic shelter, food, hygiene, a moment of joy, valued at just $11 a week. That's less than $2 a day, barely enough for a cup of coffee, let alone the dignity of choice. This is Tim O's reality, not a hypothetical. For Tim, this isn't a temporary hardship or a passing phase. It's the framework of his life, the boundaries that define every decision he makes. For over 11 years, he's lived within the walls of Key Point Health Services in Maryland. The world outside changes, but inside, time stands still. Routine, repetition, and the constant calculation of how far $11 can stretch. Tim is a man with autism, with hopes and a voice that's been ignored. He has dreams like anyone else, a favorite snack, a new shirt, a bus ticket to visit a friend. But each one is weighed against the harsh reality of his allowance. Every day, he faces the impossible, stretching $11 to cover all his personal needs for a week. Toothpaste or a treat, a haircut or a birthday card for a loved one. These are the choices that define his days, choices most of us never have to make. The world has changed, prices have soared, but for Tim, the allowance remains frozen, a daily reminder of a system that's failed him. Inflation eats away at what little he has, making each dollar feel smaller, each week more daunting. $11 isn't just an allowance, it's a cage, stripping away choice, autonomy, and the simple joys that make life meaningful. It's a silent barrier, invisible to most, but ever present for those trapped inside. How can a nation of such wealth allow this? In a city where skyscrapers rise and fortunes are made, people like Tim are left behind, their needs overlooked, their voices unheard. Tim isn't asking for a fortune, just recognition, dignity, and the right to live, not merely exist. He wants to be seen, to be valued, to have the freedom to make choices that most of us take for granted. His struggle is a testament to resilience, but also a damning indictment of a system that's forgotten its purpose. Tim's perseverance shines through, but it shouldn't have to be this hard. No one should have to fight so relentlessly for the basics of a dignified life. This is a story that demands we confront our values and act. It's a call to remember our shared humanity, to ensure that no one is left to survive on the margins, and to build a system that truly supports those who need it most. The program at Key Point Health Services was created in 1982, at a time when the world looked very different from today. Back then, the landscape of mental health care was shifting, with new ideas about community-based support just beginning to take root. The buildings, the paperwork, and even the attitudes were shaped by the era's hopes and limitations. This was 2 years before Tim O was even born, before his story had begun, before anyone could imagine the challenges he would face decades later. When Tim entered the program in 2014, he stepped into a system built for a world that no longer exists. The walls and rules around him were relics of a different time, never updated to match the realities of the present. The rules governing his life were written when gas was just $1.22 a gallon, a price that now seems almost unimaginable. Back then, you could see a movie for less than $3, and the cost of living was a fraction of what it is today. But the program's standards and funding have barely changed, even as the world outside has transformed. For Tim, these outdated standards aren't just numbers on a page, they shape his daily life. Every dollar is stretched thin, and the support he receives hasn't kept pace with rising costs or modern needs. He faces choices no one should have to make, simply because the system never adjusted for inflation or the realities of today's economy. What began as a well-intentioned move away from large institutions has, over time, become a kind of invisible prison, a place where neglect is built into the very structure. The promise of freedom has faded, replaced by barriers that keep people like Tim from moving forward. Tim never chose to be bound by policies written decades before he was born, yet every day he pays the price for decisions made by people he's never met, in a world that no longer exists. His struggles are not the result of personal failure, but of a system that has failed to evolve. This isn't Tim's failure, it's a systemic one, passed down from one generation of leaders to the next. The responsibility now lies with today's policymakers to recognize these outdated structures and take action. The legacy of 1982 must finally come to an end. It's time to build a mental health system that reflects today's values, today's challenges, and the dignity of every person it serves. Only then can we offer real hope and real change for people like Tim and for the generations yet to come. Mayor Scott, Governor Moore, Lieutenant Governor Miller, do you see Timo? Do you see the faces behind the numbers? The individuals whose lives are shaped by every decision you make? When you look at your city, your state, do you truly see the people who are struggling the most? Do you see those living on just $11 a week in your state? Imagine trying to stretch a handful of bills to cover food, transportation, and basic needs. For many, this is not a hypothetical, it's their daily reality. These are your constituents, your neighbors, the people you swore to serve. Your policies shape their lives in ways both seen and unseen. Every budget cut, every funding decision, every law passed or ignored ripples out, affecting real people in profound ways. The choices made in these rooms echo through the streets and homes of Maryland. This isn't a distant problem. It's happening here, now. It's not just a story on the news or a statistic in a report. It's the lived experience of thousands in our communities. People you pass by every day. Federal leaders, your funding decisions set the stage for these realities. The frameworks you create, the priorities you set, determine whether people thrive or merely survive. The impact of your choices is felt in every corner of our state. Timo is not a statistic, he's a human being, a daily testament to systemic failure. He represents countless others who are overlooked, whose stories are rarely told. Behind every number is a person with hopes, dreams, and dignity. This is not a partisan issue, it's a human one. Poverty, mental health, and dignity cross party lines. Compassion and justice should unite us, not divide us. We all have a stake in building a society that cares for its most vulnerable. We demand action, review these programs, update archaic allowances, and legislate for dignity. The time for studies and promises has passed. We need real change, and we need it now. Listen to the advocates, the families, the people living this struggle every day. Inaction is a choice, and it's unacceptable. Every day that passes without reform is another day of hardship for those who can least afford it. The clock is ticking and the world is watching. To every resident in these programs, you are not invisible. Your struggle matters. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your needs deserve to be met, and your humanity deserves to be honored. We're shining a spotlight on this injustice, and we won't let it fade. The world needs to see what's happening, and we will keep speaking out until change comes. Silence is no longer an option. Leaders have the power to fix this. With the stroke of a pen, with the courage to act, you can transform lives and restore hope. The responsibility is yours. The only question is, will they? Will you choose to see us, to hear us, and to act? The future depends on your answer. $11 a week, $1.57 a day. Can you buy even a bottle of water for that? For Tim, every purchase is a painful calculation. Shoelaces, a haircut, a birthday card, each one a major sacrifice. There's no room for emergencies, no room for joy. Social isolation grows. He can't afford to join friends for coffee or a movie. This isn't just financial imprisonment, it's social and emotional too. Expecting anyone to live, maintain dignity, and connect on $11 a week is cruel. It's time to change the equation. In the film, a father takes drastic action when the system fails his son. Timo's story is quieter, but just as desperate. He's not holding anyone hostage, but he's a hostage of bureaucracy, fighting for the right to be treated with humanity. For officials, Tim's struggle is just another line item. For him, it's life-defining. Why do we only notice injustice when it's dramatic? Tim's slow-motion emergency is just as urgent. The gulf between official indifference and lived suffering is where injustice festers. He shouldn't need a dramatic gesture to be heard. His story should be enough. The injustice of his 11-year fight should spur us to action. We must stop being passive spectators. Demand a different ending for Tim. Life at Key Point isn't passive. Tim and others are required to participate in psychiatric rehabilitation programs, structured, demanding, and by any measure, work. They attend groups, build life skills, and engage in therapy, emotional and psychological labor that's essential for recovery. Yet, this work is unrecognized and uncompensated. The system demands effort but refuses fair pay, sending a message that their work is worthless. True rehabilitation should empower, not infantilize. The work Tim does deserves at least minimum wage, not as charity, but as earned income. This would provide independence, dignity, and real-life practice. It's time to value the hard work of recovery. What is Timo's value? The system says $11 a week. That's the price tag on his autonomy, dignity, and social life. A human life isn't a budget line, it's immeasurable. Imagine being told your worth is less than a few gallons of gas. This isn't just about money, it's about the psychological toll of being devalued for years. Tim is not defined by his autism. He's a person with dreams and worth. We must decide. Do we cherish every life, or manage it at the lowest cost? Our policies must reflect the infinite value of every person. In a nation shaped by faith, we must ask, what would Jesus do? Would he tell Timo that $11 a week is enough? The scriptures teach compassion for the marginalized, yet our system passes by on the other side. This isn't about religion, but about a universal principle. Treat others as you'd want to be treated. No one would choose this life. We have a moral obligation to change it. The current policy is not just financially unsound, it's morally bankrupt. Let this question echo in every hall of power. What would a compassionate society do? The answer is clear: intervene, demand justice, and lift Timo up. He is worthy of so much more. The time for excuses is over. This is a crisis demanding urgent action. Governor Moore, Mayor Scott, Dr. Seshamani, Timo has lost 11 years to this injustice. How much longer must he wait? Citizens, your voice matters. Call, write, share Tim's story, and demand change. Insist that psychiatric rehabilitation be recognized as labor, and that personal needs allowances reflect real costs. Be the bystander who steps in, not the one who looks away. To Tim and others, your story is now in the light. You are not invisible. Every day under this system is another day of justice denied. $11 is not a life. It's an insult. The time to act is now. What will you do?